Good morning, class. This is your English teacher, Sir Sanjay. I welcome you all to yet another YouTube session wherein we explain lessons of different English book as well as grammar. Alright, so without wasting any further time, let's begin. From today onwards, so that just you have the idea as to what we are doing, we will begin Unit 8 of English Honeydew Takes. This unit will have two lessons. The first one is named a short monsoon diary. Monsoon, what is monsoon? If you know, monsoon basically is a season that brings about abundant rain in India, right? So diary is of course a written journal maintained by writer. Okay, so we'll get to read some extract from the diary of a nature lover who enjoys monsoon in the hills and observes the accompanying changes in the world of flora and fauna. So what is flora, class? For your understanding, plant population is also known as flora and fauna refers to animal population. Okay, so this is what we are going to read, and then there'll be some activities wherein we learn how to work with languages. There'll be projects under writing section. Okay, so this is what we are going to do in the first lesson, and then there'll be another lesson, a second lesson of the unit called On the Grasshopper and the Cricket. So it's a poem. Okay, so this poem will take us back to that beautiful, wonderful fable wherein grasshopper and cricket were, the culprit of over enjoyment of a particular season, and then the price they had to pay. Okay, it will be compared with the ant and the cricket to bring out differences of style and theme clearly with examples. All right. So now, as the introduction is given, I believe with a bit of preface, we can begin the lesson. Okay, so let's get started. All right. Hold on. So yeah, before we read, as you can see here is a bit of preface. It asks us, what a diary is. We all know it's a record of personal experiences written day after day over a long period of time, isn't it? We can use diary to write down things. So one of the most famous diaries ever published as a book is the Diary of Anne Frank. We all know who Anne Frank is, isn't it? She was executed by Hitler, Adolf Hitler, during the rise of Nazism in Germany and adjoining areas, isn't it? So let's begin reading without any further ado. See, this book, this story or this diary is also divided into few parts. What we are going to take up today is the first part, and if time permits, the remainder parts as well. Okay. So part number 1, June 24. But before we begin, there will be a word I want you to know the meaning. It's clearly written here, melancholy. What is melancholy? Something which is really sad. Okay. Here mist is called melancholy because it makes people feel sad. And blankets refer to covers. Okay. So let's see. Yeah. See, the first day of monsoon, mist. And it's strange how all the birds fell silent as the mist comes climbing up the hill. Perhaps that's what makes the mist so melancholy. Not only does it conceal the hills, it blankets them in silence too. Only an hour ago the trees were ringing with birdsong, and now the forest is deathly still as though it were midnight. Through the mist, Biju is calling to her sister. I can hear him running about on the hillside, but I cannot see him. See, first day, whenever there is this rainfall, the weather becomes quite misty, doesn't it? Things are not visible very clearly, fog cover, it seems or it appears as though everything is covered by fog. So here the writer says, it's strange how all the birds and other animals feel silent whenever there is such a rainfall or such an happening, as if the nature is in a state of melancholy is what he says. So the writer also says, the narrator in fact says, he hears Biju. Biju might be someone who lives nearby. Biju calling to his sister. He can hear him running about on the hillside, but he cannot see him. Okay, so let's continue reading. Quite simple. Now June 25. This will be the second day. First day, the birds and the animals fell silent and everything was misty. There was melancholy in the air. What was there in the air? There was melancholy in the air. Okay. So let's continue. Now the second day, June 25. What happens? See, what do you see here? You see a bud, right? The plant is about a plant is about to thrive now. We can clearly see here. So let's read what June 5 holds. See, you will have to know the meaning of a word called fern. What is fern? Fern is a flowerless plant with feathery green leaves. All right. So let's take a look here. Okay. So see, some genuine. If something is genuine, it's of fresh, pure quality. Some genuine early monsoon rain, warm and humid. Humid. Okay. Humid is that kind of a weather you feel really sweaty. Okay. And not that cold, high altitude stuff we have been having all the year. Okay. Means the second day rain was not really very cold. High altitude, high height stuff. Stuff here refers to the rainfall that usually takes place in the part of the country they live in. Okay, so the plants seem to know it too. And the first cobra lily, so this is an example of cobra lily, all right, class, rears its head from the ferns. So see, cobra lily is rearing to get out from the fern. Okay, as I walk up to the bank and post office. So the writer has some work at the bank and post office, and as he walks up to those places, he observes few changes in the nature, and that is what he writes down. Okay, the mist affords a certain privacy, means the mist is no longer seen now. A schoolboy asked me to describe the hill station and valley in one sentence. A hill station basically are places which are hilly places lived by people, isn't it? So one of his a schoolboy happened to have asked the writer to describe hill and valley in one sentence, and all he could say was a paradise that might have been. Okay, so he refers to this a paradise. Okay, so there will be new word class on June 27. We may learn some of this. See, heralded. Heralded, if you herald something, you announce it. Okay, imprecation means curses. Blood letting means losing blood. Decades ago, leeches were used to remove blood from a what? From a patient's body. Okay, so let's continue. The rains have heralded, just the second class. Yeah, the rains have heralded the arrival of, some seasonal visitors. So whenever there is this rainfall in hilly area, there are this seasonal visitors. By seasonal visitors, he refers to animals, leopard and several thousand leeches. Okay, leeches are those creepy creatures. They crawl into you and then they suck blood from our body, isn't it? So as soon as there is rain, these creatures are often seen. He says, yesterday's afternoon, the leopard lifted a dog from near the servants' quarter below the school. So a dog was lifted apparently by a leopard. In the evening, it attacked one of Biju's cow, but fled at the approach of Biju's mother, who came screaming imprecations. Okay, curses means Biju's mother was angry because he was attacking Biju's cow, isn't it? People in hilly area, they rear different kind of animals, so cow is one of them. So Biju's mother started, throwing curses and cursing the leopard with all those words and screaming on her way. Okay. As for the leeches, I shall soon get used to little bloodletting every day. So he says, as far as leeches are concerned, he's sure the leeches attack will not stop anytime soon. So he says, he is kind of getting used or fixing his head, because leeches are of course going to come and get the better of him. Okay. So as we read further line, new words will come. What are they? Scarlet minivet. It refers to bright red bird like a cuckoo. And then we will also read Drongo. What is Drongo? Drongo is a songbird with stout bill. Okay, its bill is quite fat. So other new arrivals are scarlet minivets. The females are yellow, flitting silently among the leaves like brilliant jewels. So they sit among the leaves and they look like, as if the leaves are decorated with golden jewelry. The leaves are decorated with golden jewelry, it appears. Alright. So he says, no matter how leafy the trees, these brightly colored birds cannot conceal. Again, no matter how leafy the trees, these brightly colored birds cannot conceal themselves, means they cannot hide themselves, although by remaining absolutely silent, they sometimes contrive, means they sometimes try to go unnoticed. So along come a pair of drongos. Other than that, there was a pair of drongo. Pair refers to two, right? Unnecessarily aggressive, means they were quite aggressive, angry, and they were chasing the minivet away. So as soon as drongo came, they chased the minivets away. Okay. So a tree creeper moves rapidly up the trunk on the of the oak tree. Now he also talks about a tree creeper which moves rapidly up the trunk of the oak tree, snapping up insects all the way. So he's snapping up, means eating all the insects and then snapping them all the way. Now that the rains are here, there is no dearth of food for insectivorous birds. So dearth means there is no lack of food for insectivorous birds. Who are insectivorous? Birds that feed on insects. Okay, so all in all, rainy season has brought plentiful for different animals, right? So the monsoon is beautifully described. Okay, so June 24 and June 25 as well as June 27 have beautifully been described by the author in the first part. So we have a tiny comprehension check here based on your reading and understanding. Let's see what is this about. It says, why is the author not able to see Biju? Why is the author not able to see Biju? Because Biju was running in the farthest distance and he was not within the writer's vicinity, right? So why are the two ways, what are the two ways in which the hill appear to change when the mist comes up? The birds and everything goes silent, and then they have their own way, the creepings and everything stops, right? You try and describe it in your own word. Moving on, part 2. Now see, it ended on June 27 and now we are talking about August. Okay, so drumming, falling noisily is what is going to be useful as we do further reading. See, 2nd August. All night the rain has been drumming on the corrugated tin roof. Okay, tin roof is what this people living in hilly area they afford, and then it had been raining. There has been no storm, no thunder, just the steady swish of a tropical downpour. Downpour refers to rain. Means there was no thunderstorm, these and that, but then it had been raining continuously. It helps me to lie awake. At the same time, it doesn't keep me from sleeping. So, yes, describe this rainfall beautifully. It's something that is really amusing because he does not want to fall asleep quickly, but at the same time the weather is so pleasant that even if he tries, he just has to go to sleep. He feels sleepy. Okay, sometimes it happens. No, it's a good sound to read by, the rain outside, the quiet within, and although tin roofs are given to spring unaccountable leaks, there is a feeling of being untouched by and yet in touch with the rain. So beautifully described the rainy season. If you have observed or have ever experienced living in under a tin roof during rainy season, what happens is the tin roof produces clanking sound and some people enjoy it. According to the author, reading under such a roof is a really wonderful experience. Okay, if you are living this way whenever it rains, it seems according to him as though you are in touch with the rain. So it's very beautifully described the nature, isn't it? Now let's move on to the next day, August 3. Now what happens? So there will be some days gap before he brings out the next update, isn't it? So what are we going to read? Disconsolately means unhappily. Okay, so the rain stopped. stops. By August 3, the clouds begin to break up, the sun strikes the hill on my left. A woman is chopping up the sticks. Beautiful, typical hilly area is being described. He says, I hear the tinkle of cowbells, means people have started taking their cow for grazing and everything. Okay, so in the oak tree, crow shakes the raindrops from his feathers and cows disconsolately. So crow is, cowing unhappily. Water drips from a leaking drain pipe, and suddenly, clean and pure, the song of the whistling thrush emerges like a dark, sweet secret from the depth of the ravine. Okay, so now the rain has stopped and the animals are in a way. People are trying to get back into what is normal for them. The sun is also seen shining. Okay, now about after 9 days, what happens is, let's find out. Endless rain and a permanent mist. By August 12th, the rain does not seem to stop, and the misty weather is the new permanent, according to him. We haven't seen the sun for 8 or 9 days. Everything is damp, everything is wet and soggy. Okay, soggy is also another adjective used to describe whatever is wet. No way to go. Pace the room, look out the window at few bobbing umbrellas. At least it isn't cold rain. The hillsides are lush as late monsoon flowers begin to appear. Wild balsam, different flowers, okay, dahlias, begonias, and grounded orchids. So now August 9 is there, and then the rain does not stop, and then with it, few people are going outside, but it's not cold. But then this has turned out to be booming season for different flower. He's mentioned a few. What are they? Balsam, dahlia, begonias, and orchids. Okay, so let's move on. Again, he is updated by August 31. What happens here? It's the last day of August, and the lush monsoon growth has reached its peak. Okay, grow. People grow a lot of vegetable and different vegetation as soon as monsoon appears, isn't it? So he says, lush monsoon growth has reached its peak. The seeds of the cobra lily are turning red, signifying the rains are coming to an end. So whenever cobra, lilies seeds are turning red, this is an indication of significance that the rainy seasons are coming to an end. In a few days, the ferns will start turning yellow, but right now they are still firm, green and upright, accordingly. Okay, brown orchids, mauve lady slipper, and the white butterfly orchids put on a fashion display on the grassy slopes of Landor. Okay, so he is actually describing each and everything that he observes. Okay, now wild dahlias, red, yellow, magenta, rear their heads from the rocky crevices. So what are crevices? Class, these are narrow opening or cracks on rocks or walls. So different flowers are, poking their head out from the crevices where they have taken hold. Other than that, what is new with snakes and rodents? They flooded out of their holes and burrows, and they have started taking shelter in roofs, attics, and godowns. A shrew. Okay, what is shrew? You ask to find its Hindi equivalent in the next sentence. Let's find. Okay, a shrew, weak of eyesight, blunders about the room, much to the amusement of children. So children do love these things, isn't it? Rats and all. Don't kill it, admonishes the grandmother Chuchundar. Okay, so shrew. What are shrews class? Chuchundar, mole. Okay, it says Chuchundars are lucky, they bring money. And sure enough, I receive a check in the mail, not a very large one, but welcome. All the same, since he is a writer, he received this check and he was happy. Okay, now we move on to 3rd of October. What happens? We have gone straight from monsoon into winter rain, snow at higher altitudes. After an evening hailstorm, the sky and hills are suffused with a beautiful golden light. Now, what happened? From monsoon, the winter season has started. Okay, and then The beauty of winter season is depicted in these lines. All right. Now we are moving on to January 26. See how the hill looks like. Okay. Winter rains have come back. Winter rains in the hill. In the rushed silence of the house, when I'm quite alone and my friend who was here has gone, it is very lonely, very quiet as I sit in a liquid silence, a silence with it. Surrounded by the rhythm of rain, the steady drift of water on leaves, on lemons, on roof, drumming on drenched dahlias and window panes, while the mist holds the house in a dark caress. Okay, as I pause near a window, the rain stops and starts again, and the trees, no longer green but grey, menace me with their loneliness. So now the trees look lonely as the winter rain appears and it's quite cold. Okay, now March 23. What is March 23? Let's find out. Okay, see, March 23, late March, end of winter. March usually marks the end of winter in hilly area, right? The blackest cloud I've ever seen squatted over Missouri, and then it hail marbles for half an hour. Okay, hailstorm. Marble refers to hailstorm. Nothing like a hailstorm to clear the sky. Even as I write, I see a rainbow forming. So overall, the writer has described nature beautifully. He's seen that everything acts in perfect conformity with nature to maintain the balance that nature has its in offering. Okay, to understand things really well, read it for the second time and understand. Now let's quickly check what we have in the following section. Okay, give me a moment. So see, we have a comprehension shake here. When does the monsoon season begin and when does it end? How do you prepare to face the monsoon? So, class, evident from the text, based on your understanding of the text, try and answer it. Which hill station does the author describe in this diary entry? Very simple. It was mentioned in the last line, right? Missouri. So, for how many days does it rain without stopping? There were 8 to 9 days. What does the author do on these days? Where do the snakes and rodents take shelter? Under the ground in their burrows and holes, right? Why? Because they cannot sustain rainfall. What did the author receive in the mail? A little check, right? Moving on, now working with text. You are asked to look carefully the diary entries for June 24, 25, August 2 and March 23. Now write down the changes that happened as the rain progressed from June to March, right? There were a few changes. You got to write them. 2. Why did the grandmother ask the children to not to kill the chachunda? Because according to grandmother, what happens? The chachundas bring good luck. 3. What signs do we find in nature which shows that monsoons are about to end? There are various signs, isn't it? Pertaining to leaves, trees, these and that. Next. Complete the following sentence. Biju is not seen, but his voice is heard because the writer describes the hill station and valley as. So class try and do. Then we have working with language. Here are some words that are associated with the monsoon. Add as many words as you can to this list. Can you find the words for this in your language? Okay, downpour, heavy rainfall, floods, when rainfall brings in or creates waterlogging, then mist, cloudy, power cuts. What are power cuts? When light goes or when lights are out, isn't it? Then we have cold, umbrella, right? Look at the sentences below. Biju wandered into the garden in the evening. The trees were ringing with bird song. Now, notice the highlighted verb. The verb wander tell us what Biju did the evening. The verb was ringing tell us what was happening continually at the same time in the past. The birds were chirping in the trees. Okay, so some sentences are provided below. You are asked to tell something that happened in the past. They also tell us about other things that happen continuously at the same time in past. So verbs are provided to break it in their proper form. The first one is also done. See, we get out of the school bus. The bell rang and everyone rushed to the class. We got out of the school bus, the bell was ringing and everyone was rushing to class. The traffic stopped. Some people sat on the road and they shouted slogans. Very simple. So try and do the rest on your own. 3. Here are some words from the lesson which describe different kind of sound. Drum, swish, tinkle, cow, drip. Okay. You have to match this word with the correct meaning. To fall in small drop. What will it be? Drip. Is it? To make a sound by hitting a surface repeatedly. What will it be? Tinkle. Is it? Roman number 2. Now you have to fill in the blank using the correct form of words given above. Ramesh dash on his desk in impatience. So it's simple. 3. 4. And sure enough, I receive a check in the mail. Complete each sentence by using appropriate phrase from the ones given above. So sure enough is phrase like sure enough, colorful enough, serious enough, kind enough. I saw thick black clouds in the sky and dash it soon started raining heavily. Sure enough, you can say the blue umbrella was dash for brother and sister. Big enough, isn't it? So based on the sentence, try and fill it up. There are 9. Now speaking section. Do you believe in superstition? Superstitions basically are false belief which do not have exact scientific reference. Okay. Why or why not? Walking with your partner, write down 3 superstitious beliefs that you are familiar with. See, many people have different sort of superstition. For example, if a cat runs by, some people do not prefer to cross the road, isn't it? So there are so many. Now, how many different kinds of bird you come across in the lesson? There are 2, 3, isn't it? How many varieties do you see in your neighborhood? I don't think in cities we hardly see any, right? So are there any birds that you used to see earlier in the neighborhood but not now? Yeah, there are plenty. So after this we have a writing section. See, monsoons are a time of great fun and even a few adventure. Playing in the rain and getting wet, wading through the knee-deep water on your way to school, water flooding the house or the classroom, power cuts and so on. So you are asked to write a paragraph describing an incident that occurred during the rains which you can never forget. This is a lovely picture, isn't it? So class, try writing this, or you are asked to write a poem of your own about the season of spring when trees are in full bloom. Okay. So this in a way concludes a short monsoon diary of Ruskin Bone. So what have we done in this lesson? Let's just drag it from the beginning. Alright. We have seen various diaries and diary entry made by the writer Ruskin Bone in the story called, in the text called A Short Monsoon Diary, wherein there was entry from June 24, June 25, June 27, and then there was Comprehension Shake. Then we began from a fresh month, August 2, August 3. There was a brief fall, and then August 12, right? And then the last day of August. And then began new month called October. No September is being mentioned. October 3, October's only one entry is there. Then November and December go missing. We have January 26 when winter rain start. And then the last entry is of March 23. Wherein the end of winter is marked. After that, few comprehension check were there. We also took a brief highlight at working with text, then working with language, right? And then we saw how to fill in the blank using phrases, and then speaking, okay, writing. So class, with this we come to conclusion of today's lesson. Thank you everyone. Let's wind up the session here. Bye bye. Have a great time.